The very top of the morning to you. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Heather and as always I'm reading with a vengeance and I hope you are as well. Huge thank you to all you OGs who keep coming back, and if you're new to my channel, very warm welcome to you. I hope everybody is doing very well. Super excited about this video. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been following the Women's Prize for Fiction. This is the second year that I've been following it rather closely. I probably discovered it 2 years ago when I was watching one of my very first loves as far as Booktube channel goes, Lauren over at Lauren and the Books. And she started following it and I was watching her videos and it just intrigued me. And when I started my channel, it just made sense. Even if I don't do a YouTube channel anymore, I will probably follow the Women's Prize until the end of time. I absolutely love it. I'm not sure why, but it's just a super fun time for me. So today, I am going to do my shortlist wish list, the books that I want to see on the shortlist, and my shortlist predictions, books that I think will probably be on there. Now, I've seen some other videos do some predictions, only a handful. I've been trying to kind of stay away from seeing other people's predictions because I don't want to be swayed either way. But I have watched a couple just out of curiosity. It gets the best of me. The one thing I do notice is that there's people that have way more analytical minds than I do, way more literary than I am. That's not what is going to happen in this video. It's not going to be super intellectual, to be honest. But I'm going to go over the books that I have read so far, and I've put a good dent in the long list. Unfortunately, I haven't made it through all 16 books. So full disclosure there, it's going to be based on just the 13 books that I have read. If you're unfamiliar with the Women's Prize, I will link their website down below. I will link their YouTube channel down below. It's a UK-based prize. It's been going on for probably 25 years now. Every year, 16 books are chosen to be on a long list, and that long list is usually announced in March. And then the judges choose a short list, which consists of 6 of those books, and that announcement is usually made in April. This year, the shortlist is going to be announced on April 26th, and so I needed to get this video done. So this year, I'm even more excited. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I want to mention it again because in case you missed that video and in case you care, it's just super exciting for me, so I just want to share it with you again. So every year, the Women's Prize puts on a festival/live show event in London. It goes from noon until 9 o'clock at night. Authors are there. There's master classes, there's lectures, and there's goodies to be had, and just this literary festival that is just, I think, a reader's dream. And I'm going this year, and I can't even wait. It was just on a whim that I thought, gosh, why not go? I am going to London to go to the Women's Prize Festival. I'll be in London for 4 days. What's great also is that I will also be going to see Harry Styles while I'm there. And if you have watched any of my videos, you know I have a very healthy obsession with Harry Styles and his music. I've seen Harry Styles in concert before, and it just so happens that he was going to be there the same time I was going to be there, so I had to get tickets, right? It's going to be a whirlwind. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to get to meet Jem of Books, and I'm going to get to meet Alice with Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, and hopefully some others. I just can't wait. I'm super excited. I really wanted to read all 16 books, but I just couldn't make it happen. I had some other things come up and, well, excuses. It doesn't matter. I don't think there's enough time for the average reader. And I would say I read probably a few more books than the average reader. And to read 16 books from the long list was announced on March 7th, I believe. And then the short list is announced on April 26th. It's less than 2 months to read 16 books. There's a couple of books on there that were kind of chunky. So anyways, I gave it my best effort, and I certainly read a lot more this year than I did last year. And so speaking of last year, let me just give a little bit of a summary of my experience last year. Out of the 16 books on the long list last year, I read only 8 of them. I say only 8. I think that's a pretty good amount. But I read 8. I had a couple of 5 stars. Let me get my little notes here. So even though I read only half of the long list last year, 4 of the books that I read ended up on the short list. So I did pretty good. But funnily enough, the two that I hadn't read by the time the shortlist was announced, one was Elif Shafak's Island of Missing Trees, and the other one was Ruth Ozecki's The Book of Form and Emptiness. Interestingly enough, at least for me, The Island of Missing Trees ended up being my favorite on the entire shortlist. And The Book of Form and Emptiness ended up being the winner last year. Yeah, last year I had a really, really good time. The one disappointment that I had last year was there was a book that I read from the long list that did not make it onto the shortlist. And I was really bummed because it was one of my favorites, and that was Donnie Walton's The Final Revival of Opal and Neb. I love that book so much, and I was really bummed that it didn't make the shortlist. What can you do? I was also bummed that The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller didn't make the shortlist. I love that book as well. That one was quite polarizing. There were a lot of love it's or hate it's on that one. And speaking of polarizing, The Island of Missing Trees, that one was a love it or hate it as well. Not a whole lot of middle of the road on that one. And that ended up being one of like an all-time favorite for me. I love that book so much. I think one of the disappointments for a lot of people was that Careless by Kirsty Capes didn't make the short list. I think that was a favorite for a lot of people. I still have not gotten to it. I have it on my Kindle and I haven't gotten to it yet, but I will read it eventually. So last year was a fun experience. As far as ratings, how I feel about the books, last year, while I did have a couple of 5 stars, a couple of 4.5 stars, like highly rated books, I didn't have any DNFs. And I didn't have anything below a 3-star. I would say most of the books were 3.5 stars. This year, I've had kind of extreme highs and extreme lows. So like I said, I've read 12 of the books and I am currently in the middle of one, and I'll get to it in a second. I think it will be easier to tell you which books I haven't read yet. I have not read Sheena Patel's I'm a Fan, and I'm not sure I will. If it makes the short list, I will read it. I just don't think it's one that I would enjoy. Same goes for Camilla Grudova's Children of Paradise. It sounded somewhat intriguing to me at the beginning, but the more I hear about it, I don't think it's going to be one for me. Of course, if it makes the short list, I will be reading it. And then the last one I haven't read yet is Priscilla Morris's Black Butterflies. Now, that's not for want of trying. That book, when it was announced, I mean, nobody had heard of that book. And I understand that's hyperbole, but it was only available on Kindle, at least that I could tell. Now, forget about it. I haven't seen it in any libraries. I've been looking for it. I haven't seen it in any bookstores. So the only way for me that I've been able to get it if I wanted to, you can't even order it on Kindle anymore. It's only available on Amazon to order a hard copy. And it would have taken too long. Usually Amazon is, next day or whatever, and that wasn't the case. And so I just couldn't get my hands on it. This is one that I definitely want to read, but I knew as of like a week ago, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to it in time for the shortlist announcement. Of course, if it does show up on the shortlist, I will order it immediately. But those are the 3 books that I have yet to read. And then the one that I'm currently in the middle of, I'm listening to Jacqueline Crook's Fire Rush. I only have an hour and a half left, so I kind of have an idea of what my final rating is going to be. It's not set in stone yet, but I'll probably have that finished by the end of today. Now, I'm not going to get too in-depth as far as synopsis or my review of each of these books that I have read, because I have talked about them in depth in other videos. I was lucky enough to get through 13 of these books, mainly because 2 of the books from the long list I read before the long list was even announced, only because they were in my assigned books for the Booktube prize. And those 2 books were Tara M. Stringfellow's Memphis and Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead. So I kind of had a little bit of a head start, so that was good. Those 2 books I talk in depth. I will link my Booktube prize judging video down below. But I will tell you that those 2 have been 2 of my favorites. I rated Demon Copperhead 4.5 stars. It would have got a 5 stars if it was probably about 100 pages shorter. I rated Memphis 5 stars. It's been one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. I do understand that there's been some controversy going around about the author. I'm not going to get into that in this video. And it doesn't change the way I feel about the story, about the book, about the writing. 2 other 5-star books for me from this long list were Cecile Penn's Wandering Souls, absolutely love that, and Parini Shroff's The Bandit Queens, absolutely love that. If you want to hear more about my in-depth thoughts about each of the books that I have read and reviewed, I'll link those videos down below. A couple of more highs that I will mention. I loved Laylene Paul's Pod. And it turns out the more I hear about other people's reviews on that one, that's a polarizing one too. Either love it or hate it. There's no middle of the road for that one. And then Maggie O'Farrell's The Marriage Portrait. I really, really enjoyed that book as well. Now let's talk about the lows as far as the books that I didn't enjoy as much from the long list. I DNF'd too. So I DNF'd Glory by No Violet Bulawayo, just wasn't for me. And I DNF'd Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh, just wasn't for me. And as far as books that I did finish but didn't rate quite as highly, The Dog of the North by Elizabeth Mackenzie, I only gave 2.5 stars, which was a shock to me. I really was looking forward to that one, and it ended up being a disappointment. Also, Jennifer Croft's Homesick, I didn't really enjoy, and I get really in depth as far as other reasons why I didn't enjoy that one, and that'll be in one of my wrap-up videos as well. And that leaves the last two I haven't mentioned that were kind of middle of the road, and that was Natalie Haynes' Stone Blind and Louise Kennedy's Trespasses. I believe I gave Stone Blind 3.5 stars, and I gave Trespasses 3 stars. That one also was a surprise. And speaking of surprises, the biggest surprises that I had, surprise on the disappointment side was The Dog of the North. That was one of the ones when I first read the synopsis, I'm like, oh, that's going to be so fun. And it ended up not being as fun as I thought. It ended up not really kind of being what the synopsis said it was going to be. I expected to enjoy Trespasses more than I did as well, but those two were the only surprises on the downside. The good surprises were Wandering Souls. I knew I was going to enjoy that one. The surprise was how much I loved it. And then Maggie O'Farrell's The Marriage Portrait. I just didn't think that that was going to be something that I would love, and I absolutely loved it. It was my first Maggie O'Farrell. The biggest surprise of all, if you've watched my videos, you already know what I'm going to say, was Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I had a rough history with Barbara Kingsolver. I only read Demon Copperhead because I was assigned to judge it for the Booktube prize. And oh my gosh, I am so glad I did. I absolutely love Demon Copperhead. More on Demon Copperhead a little bit later, but I've got more to say about where I think that's going to fall in the Women's Prize for Fiction this year. But without any more blather, let's get on to my wish list and my prediction for the shortlist. I think my wish list has been fairly obvious as far as the books that I love. My wish list as far as which books that I want to see on the shortlist is just based on how I feel about them. My 2023 Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist wish list is Memphis, Demon Copperhead, Wandering Souls, The Bandit Queens, Pod, and The Marriage Portrait. Absolutely love those books and will be thrilled to pieces if they move on to the shortlist. Whether or not they move on to the shortlist, if you have not read any of these books, you're missing out. You got to read these. Now for my prediction, and maybe you're asking, well, what are you basing your predictions on? Well, the thing is that 3 of the books on my wish list are also on my prediction list. And that is Demon Copperhead, The Marriage Portrait, and Wandering Souls. I think Demon Copperhead is just a shoo-in for the shortlist. I would pay money to bet that Demon Copperhead's going to be on the shortlist. This isn't Barbara Kingsolver's first rodeo as far as the Women's Prize goes, and I just don't think anybody can deny the genius of this novel, and even the brilliance of her retelling of David Copperfield. Setting that aside, just how this book explores poverty, opportunity, and striving for something in life that is completely different than where you come from. Just masterful. This is also not Maggie O'Farrell's first rodeo with the Women's Prize. I believe Hamnet won a few years ago. I wouldn't bet money on this one, but I would bet, say, I don't know, cookies. I am pretty confident. And then the third that is also on my wish list that I think is going to be on the shortlist, and that's Hin's Wandering Souls. The writing is just smacks of Women's Prize writing. The story is unique, and there's just something about the whole package with this book that leads me to believe that it's going to be on the shortlist. And here are my other 3 predictions for the shortlist. Fire Rush, as I said, I am reading that now. I'm enjoying it enough. I can tell it's not going to be anything higher than a 3.5 star. Spoiler alert. I think the writing is fantastic. I think the story is good. The problem that I'm having with it, and again, I'm not going to get too detailed, is, well, I just don't want to get too wrapped up into my review. I just think I can recognize that the writing is something that the Women's Prize gravitates toward, and the story, as far as the commentary that's included in this book, is something that smacks of Women's Prize. Also, I think I'm a Fan is going to end up on the short list, just based on what I've heard other people say about I'm a Fan. The social commentary, the writing, I don't know, there's just something about it that leads me to believe it's going to be on the short list. And finally, Black Butterflies, based on what other people are saying about it, what the themes that are explored in the book. I've heard the writing is phenomenal. And it sounds a little bit redundant. I mean, the writing in all of these books is top notch. It just goes without saying. You end up on a list like this, the writing is not going to be the weak point. So again, back to what I said on this wasn't going to be terribly intellectual thoughts on my predictions, but I think what I've heard of what Black Butterflies has to say about the topic it's talking about, I just think that that's something that adds a little bit more shine to certain books over others. So, quick review. My prediction for the short list is Demon Copperhead, The Marriage Portrait, Wandering Souls, I'm a Fan, Black Butterflies, and Fire Rush. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This is before the short list has been announced, so maybe my prediction will change. I doubt it, though. My prediction for the winner this year is Demon Copperhead. Hands down, without a doubt, Demon Copperhead is going to be the 2023 Women's Prize for Fiction winner. So that's it. That's my wish list. That's my prediction list. What did you guys think? Have you guys gotten through any of these books on the long list? What is your prediction? I would love it if you shared your one prediction and one wish list, or a couple if you want to, for the short list. And even if you want to, what is your prediction of the winner? If you have one already, I would love to hear about it. And even if you don't have any wish lists or predictions, I would love it if you just said hi down in the doodly-doo. If you're still watching at this point, please consider giving that like button a boop, and a subscribe would be wonderful. As per usual, thank you so much for watching. I love it that you're all here. I love it that you're loving it here. I'm still enjoying it, and I just want to give you, from the bottom of my heart, warm thanks for all of your support. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.